Welcome to Tell Me More Stories Told Us podcast.
We're glad you could join us.
Get ready, because today we're embarking on, well, a pretty hilarious expedition.
It's putting it mildly. We're diving into the life of a true comedic legend, John William Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. Just saying the name probably makes you think of, I don't know, a dozen different characters right off the bat.
Absolutely. Ron Burgundy,
Yeah.
Buddy the Elf, Mugatu.
Yeah.
The list is just huge. He's synonymous with laughter.
So our quest today, our mission, if you will, is to really unpack his journey. How did he go from what seems like a pretty normal suburban upbringing to becoming this force in Hollywood?
Yeah, we want to look at the key moments, the surprising influences, maybe some twists you didn't know about that shaped him as an actor, comedian, writer, producer. He wears a lot of hats.
Okay, let's jump in. Where does the story begin?
It starts July 16th, 1967 in Irvine, California.
Irvine, okay. So suburban California, what about his family background?
Well, his mom, Betty Kay, was a teacher, so, stability there. But his dad, Roy Lee Ferrell Jr., was a musician, a saxophonist and keyboardist for, get this, the Righteous Brothers.
Wow, okay. The Righteous Brothers. That's quite a contrast in professions, isn't it? Teacher and rock and roll musician.
Totally. They'd actually moved to California from North Carolina a few years before Will was born, back in '64. His ancestry is a mix to English, German, Irish.
Interesting. And I read he had some health stuff early on.
Yeah. As an infant, he had surgery for something called pyloric stenosis. He also has a younger brother, Patrick.
And his parents divorced. How old was he then?
He was 8. And apparently his reaction was kind of classic Ferrell, even back then.
Oh, yeah.
The story goes he was pretty optimistic, saying something like, great, we'll have 2 Christmases.
Huh. That actually sounds like something one of his characters might say, already finding the silver lining, or maybe just the absurdity.
Exactly. And it's funny, seeing his dad's, let's say, less predictable career in show business, it actually made Will initially want a really steady, normal job.
Isn't that ironic? The instability pushed him towards wanting stability, but life had other plans.
Big time. And growing up in Irvine itself seems to have played a part. He described it as, like, safe, master-planned, almost boring.
Too perfect, maybe.
Yeah. And he kind of felt like the lack of natural drama fueled his creativity. He had to make things interesting himself, using comedy to break the monotony.
That makes a lot of sense. So when did he first realize he was funny, or that he could make people laugh?
He called 3rd grade a pivotal year. That's when he figured out he could get his classmates laughing just by doing physical comedy, falling down on purpose, stuff like that.
The seeds were sown early. Did that continue into high school?
Oh, yeah. Big time. He and a friend used to write and perform comedy skits over the school's intercom system.
Over the intercom? How did they swing that?
Apparently, the principal was cool with it. They let him do it.
That's amazing. Talk about an early platform.
Right. Plus, he was in talent shows, got voted best personality. But here's the kicker. He was also a serious athlete.
Really? Like what sports?
Varsity football. He was the kicker. Played soccer. Captain of the basketball team.
Wow, okay. Kicker, soccer, basketball captain, and doing comedy skits. Plus student council, I read.
Yep. Served on the student council, too. Seems like he was, pretty well-rounded and comfortable in different crowds.
Definitely sounds like it. So after high school, where did he head?
He went to the University of Southern California, USC, joined the Delta fraternity.
And studied.
Sports broadcasting, actually. Yeah. Which seems kind of fitting given the sports background,
But maybe not the comedy background we just talked about.
Right. And apparently college was also prime time for pranks.
Oh, I bet. Like what?
Dressing up as a janitor.
Yeah.
And just walking into his friends' classes.
Yeah.
Streaking around campus with his fraternity brothers. College stuff.
Classic. So the sports broadcasting major, did that lead anywhere?
Well, he did an internship at a local TV station in the sports department. And he apparently really didn't enjoy it.
The reality didn't match the idea.
Seems that way. So after graduating in 1990 with a degree in sports information, he kind of realized, yeah, this isn't for me.
So what then? Straight into comedy?
Not quite. There were a few memorable detours first, very brief, very error-prone jobs.
Do tell.
Okay, first, hotel valet. Lasted 2 days.
Only 2 days? What happened?
On day 2, he tried to drive a van under a low overhang and tore the baggage rack clean off the roof.
Oh my God, okay. That's very physical comedy. Unintentionally. What else?
Then he was a teller at Wells Fargo. Also short-lived, kept coming up short on cash when balancing out, like by significant amounts sometimes.
So basically the universe was screaming, this is not your path.
Pretty much. It was actually his mom who gave him the push.
Right.
In 1991, she encouraged him to move to L.A., give the comedy thing a real shot.
Good for her. So LA, what was the first step?
He auditioned for the Groundlings, the legendary improv and sketch comedy group.
Oh,
And he got in.
okay, the Groundlings. That's huge. That's where people like Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Phil Hartman got their start, right?
Exactly. And that's where things really clicked for him. He fell in love with improv, with creating characters on the spot.
Did he start doing impressions there too?
Yep. That's where his famous Harry Caray impression started taking shape.
Yeah.
And he created original characters, like the Butabi brothers with Chris Kattan.
Ah, the Roxbury guys. What is love?
That's them. So while he was doing Groundlings, rehearsing, auditioning, how did he pay the bills?
Good question. Still needed a day job, I guess.
Yeah, he worked at an auction house that gave him the flexibility he needed. And he started getting tiny parts here and there.
Like guest spots on sitcoms.
Grace Under Fire, Living Single, some really low-budget movies, commercials,
Yeah.
the usual struggling actor grind.
Right?
He even worked as a mall Santa one winter.
No way. Will Ferrell as a mall Santa. That's incredible. Imagine sitting on his lap.
The stories he probably has from that. So he's grinding away at the Groundlings, doing these small gigs, and then comes the big break.
Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live. The show was kind of in a slump in the mid-90s, looking for new talent. A producer saw Ferrell, Kattan, and Sherry Otery, another Groundling, performing.
And they all got auditions.
Yep. And in 1995, Will Ferrell joined the cast.
And the rest is history, as they say. He was there for 7 seasons.
7 seasons, yeah. And he just exploded, became a massive star. His impersonations were just legendary.
George W. Bush, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Harry Caray, Robert Goulet singing completely random pop songs.
James Lipton from Inside the Actors Studio.
Who apparently loved the impression. Neil Diamond, Ted Kennedy, Janet Reno, even Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, Alex Trebek in Celebrity Jeopardy.
The Trebek impression was brutal and hilarious. Jesse Ventura, Al Gore, Saddam Hussein, Fidel Castro. The range was wild.
And that's just the impressions. His original characters were just as iconic.
Okay, let's list some. The morning latte guy, Tom Wilkins.
Ned, Mr. Ed's supposed twin brother. Gene Frankel.
Mort Cowbell.
You gotta have more cowbell. Gene Frankel from the Blue Oyster Cult sketch. Marty Culp, the music teacher, with Anna Gasteyer.
Craig Buchanan, the Spartan cheerleader with Cherry O'Terry. Dale Sturdivant from Dissing Your Dog.
Hank from the Bill Brasky sketches.
Yeah.
David Leary, the dog show announcer with Molly Shannon. And Steve Butabi, of course.
Just an incredible run of characters and pure commitment. I remember hearing about a moment during a live sketch. Something with shorts.
Ah, yes. The Patriotic Shorts sketch.
Yeah.
He was playing this character, Dale McGrew, super patriotic guy. And just completely spontaneously, he flashed the thong he was wearing underneath.
Live on air.
Live on air. Apparently, it wasn't rehearsed. You can see the host, Sean William Scott, and the other cast members just completely lose it, cracking up.
That's amazing. That's fearless comedy right there.
Totally fearless. And it paid off. By 2001, he was reportedly the highest paid cast member on SNL.
Wow. How much?
Around $350,000 a season, which was big money then.
Deservedly so, I'd say. He basically carried the show for a while there.
No question. And even after he left in 2002, he kept coming back. He's hosted 5 times now.
The Five Timers Club.
Yep. Brought back Trebek, brought back Goulet. He even did a cowbell cameo when Queens of the Stone Age were the musical guest on one of his hosting nights.
That's fantastic. So he leaves SNL in 2002, already a huge TV star. What about movies? He'd done some already, right?
Yeah, while he was still on SNL, he was in things like Austin Powers, A Night at the Roxbury Superstar. But his first big starring role after leaving SNL was Old School in 2003.
Frank the Tank. We're going striking.
Exactly, and that movie was a huge hit. The New York Times praised his hilarious, anxious zealotry. It really showed he could carry a movie.
And then later that same year, Elf.
Elf, which just cemented him as a massive movie star. It became an instant Christmas classic. Still is.
Totally. That really solidified his leading man status in comedy. And this was around the time people started talking about Frat Pack, right?
Yeah, that group of comedy actors, Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn, Luke Wilson, Jack Black, Steve Carell. Ferrell was right in the middle of that. They were dominating comedy film.
And making bank, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. By 2005, he was reportedly pulling in around $40 million.
Whoa! But he didn't just stick to the broad comedies, did he?
No, and that's what's interesting. In 2006, he did Talladega Nights. The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, which was another huge comedy hit, his biggest opening at the time.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Classic. But the same year, he also starred in Strangers in Fiction.
Which was much more dramatic, or at least dramedy.
Yeah, much more subdued, playing an IRS agent whose life is being narrated by an author. He really showed his range. People were genuinely surprised and impressed.
It proved he wasn't just the yelling, physical comedy guy.
Exactly. The magazine even named him one of the top 3 actors of the year in 2006, alongside, serious, dramatic actors.
That's quite the validation. Then came Step Brothers in 2008.
Teaming up again with John C. Reilly after Talladega Nights. And, oh man, Step Brothers.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep. It got mixed reviews initially, but it's become such a huge cult classic now. Their chemistry is just off the charts.
It really is. They're amazing together. He was also known for doing hilarious promotional stuff too, right?
Oh yeah. Like that pregame video for the Rose Bowl with Matthew McConaughey singing at the ESPY Awards. He always commits 110% to the bit.
And voice acting too.
Loads of it. The Oblongs, Family Guy, King of the Hill. He was Ted, the man in the yellow hat, in the Curious George movie, and the title character in Megamind.
Megamind is so underrated. He was great in that. And he popped up at the Oscars a few times.
Yeah, usually doing funny songs with Jack Black or John C. Reilly, complaining about how comedies never get nominated for Best Picture.
Which is a fair point. Then he did Broadway.
Yep, 2009. A one-man show called You're Welcome, America. A final night with George W. Bush, playing his famous SNL character on stage.
That's a bold move, taking a sketch character to Broadway.
Definitely. It got pretty good reviews, too. Though his movie that year, Land of the Lost, was less successful.
Yeah, that one didn't quite land, did it?
Not so much. But he bounced back quickly. In 2010, he starred in and produced The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg.
Aim for the bushes.
Possibly the greatest random death scene intro ever. That movie was a solid hit, good reviews, too.
Okay, so heading into the 2010s, he's still going strong. What else stands out from that period?
Well, he had that great cameo playing cowbell, naturally, in the Beastie Boys' Make Some Noise video.
Of course he did.
He starred in Casa de mi Padre, a comedy entirely in Spanish.
Wait, entirely in Spanish? Does he speak Spanish?
Not fluently, no. That was part of the joke. Is a spoof of telenovelas. Very deadpan.
Okay, that sounds perfectly Ferrell.
Then he did the campaign with Zach Galifianakis, a political satire. And remember that Grantland poll in 2014?
Remind me.
They polled critics and comedians and voted Will Ferrell the single best Saturday Night Live cast member of all time.
Wow. Ahead of Belushi, Murray, Murphy, Hartman, Farley. That's huge.
It really speaks to his impact on that show. Oh, and we have to mention the drum-off.
Right, with Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Because they look weirdly alike.
Exactly. They had this long-running mock feud, which led to this epic drum battle on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. For charity, but still hilarious.
I remember that. It was brilliant. Did he challenge anyone else?
Yeah, he threw down the gauntlet to Lars Ulrich from Metallica afterwards, but I don't think that would ever happen.
Shame. That would have been something. He also teamed up with Mark Wahlberg again, right?
Yep, for Get Hard, and then the Daddy's Home movies.
Yeah.
Which were pretty big commercial successes.
And he reprised Mugatu in Zoolander 2.
He did. So hot right now. He also filmed a movie called Zeroville way back in 2014, but it took ages to come out, finally released in 2019. And he was supposed to play the cult film director Russ Meyer in a movie, but that project got shelved.
Okay, let's pause here for a second. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the career of Will Ferrell, make sure hit that subscribe button on Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast. That way you won't miss any of our future explorations.
Definitely subscribe. We've got lots more stories coming your way.
Okay.
So beyond acting, Ferrell also made a huge move into digital content, didn't he?
Right. Funny or Die. He co-founded that with Adam McKay back in 2007.
Which was really groundbreaking at the time. It became this massive platform for online comedy shorts.
And produced some absolutely legendary viral videos like The Landlord.
Oh my God, The Landlord, starring Adam McKay's toddler daughter Pearl as Ferrell's foul-mouthed landlord demanding rent. It was genius.
Pure gold. And Ferrell himself starred in lots of Funny or Die videos, right? Answers internet questions, Green Team.
Yep. And his influence went behind the scenes, too. He's an executive producer on the HBO show Eastbound and Down.
Which was amazing. Danny McBride.
So good. Ferrell even had a recurring role as the car dealership owner, Ashley Schaefer.
Hilarious. He also produced The Chris Gethard Show and, more recently, the Netflix show Dead to Me.
Yeah, he and McKay had their production company, Gary Sanchez Productions, for years behind a lot of these projects. They ended that partnership in 2019, though. decided to pursue separate ventures.
Okay, let's shift to the personal side a bit. He's married.
Yes. Since August 2000, to Swedish actress Viveka Polin. They actually met back in 1995 at an acting class.
Wow, so they've been together a long time.
Yeah, and they have 3 sons together. He keeps his family life pretty private, generally.
Makes sense. He's also still connected to USC.
Very much so. He's an active alumnus of his fraternity, Delta Tau Delta, and apparently works with the football team sometimes. Gives them pep talks or something.
That's cool. And the marathon running, that surprised me.
Right. He's run the Boston Marathon, New York City Marathon, even Stockholm. Usually raises money for charity when he does it.
Impressive. Any other quirky personal facts?
Well, he's acknowledged he could be a bit difficult when it comes to autographs, even admitted to sometimes taunting autograph seekers.
Huh. Okay, that sounds on brand in a weird way.
And remember Man vs. Wild with Bear Grylls?
Vaguely.
He went on the show, they were in Sweden, and he ate a reindeer eye.
Oh, God. Okay. Commitment. He's also into sports ownership now.
Yeah, he's a part owner of the Los Angeles FC, the MLS team.
Yeah.
Since 2016.
And they won the championship recently, didn't they?
They did. MLS Cup winners in 2022. So he's got a championship ring now, kinda.
Nice. And USC gave him an honorary degree?
Yep, an honorary doctorate of humane letters in 2017. He gave a pretty funny commencement speech.
I bet he did. I also read he was in a serious car accident a few years back.
Yeah, in 2018, the SUV he was in got hit and flipped over. Scary stuff, but thankfully he and everyone else involved were relatively okay. No major injuries for him.
Thank goodness. What about politics? Does he get involved?
He's known to be a supporter of the Democratic Party. He supported Obama, endorsed Eric Garcetti for LA mayor.
Did he ever meet George W. Bush, who he famously impersonated?
No, he chose not to. Said it was partly for comedic reasons, didn't want the impression to be affected, and partly political. Didn't necessarily agree with his policies.
Makes sense. He did have a funny video chat with the former Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard, though.
That's right. Very random and funny. But mostly, he seems to keep his political engagement fairly low-key compared to some celebrities. His sports engagement, though.
Oh.
That's another story.
Oh, yeah. Beyond the LAFC ownership.
Definitely. Baseball, especially. Remember back in 2010, he pitched a whole inning for a minor league team, the Round Rock Express.
That's who?
As Billy Ray Rojo Johnson, this fake, washed-up relief pitcher persona he created, complete with a terrible mustache. It was a charity stunt, but hilarious.
That sounds amazing. Didn't he do something even crazier in baseball later?
Yeah. In 2015, for a Funny or Die special, again for charity, he played every single position in baseball.
Every position, like all 9.
All 10 positions, including designated hitter, for 10 different Major League Baseball teams, all in one single day during spring training.
That is absolutely insane. How did he even manage that logistically? Flying between stadiums?
Helicopter transfers, quick changes in the car. It was nuts. He documented the whole thing. He even recorded an out as a pitcher, struck out a batter.
An official strikeout in a spring training game.
Yep. Finished the day with a .000 ERA. You can't beat that.
That might be the most Will Ferrell thing ever. Just absolute commitment to an absurd premise for a good cause.
Totally. He's also a huge hockey fan, loves the Los Angeles Kings, goes to games all the time. He even commentated a period of a Kings game as Ron Burgundy once.
As Ron Burgundy, great Odin's Raven.
Pretty much. And soccer, besides owning part of LAFC, he's played in the Soccer Aid charity matches in the UK.
Man, the guy has boundless energy, and all this has led to a lot of recognition, right? Awards and stuff.
For sure. He's won 6 Primetime Emmy Awards, mostly for producing, a British Academy Television Award, nominated for Golden Globes, a Tony Award for The Bush Show.
And the big comedy honors.
Yep. He received the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor in 2011, which is a huge deal in comedy. Got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2015. James Joyce Award from University College Dublin back in 2008. And he's getting the Kirk Douglas Award soon, too.
It's a seriously impressive resume across so many different areas.
Absolutely. A really remarkable career built on laughter.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this a bit. We've gone from this kid in quiet Irvine making people laugh by falling over to this global comedy icon.
Yeah, it's quite the trajectory. I mean, his story really feels like a testament to finding your unique thing and just running with it. You know, that comedic vision plus just relentless dedication.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is his range. We think of the big, loud characters, but then there's Stranger Than Fiction or even the vulnerability in Elf. Yeah. And now he's doing things like podcasts, documentaries.
Right. The Ron Burgundy podcast, his own podcast network, Big Money Players. And that recent documentary, Will and Harper, about a road trip with his best friend who transitioned. That shows a whole different side again.
It shows a willingness to keep evolving, to not just rest on the Ron Burgundy laurels, as great as they are.
Totally. He's got this blend of like really meticulous character work, but also this wild, spontaneous improvisation that just defines his style.
So, if you're listening, what's the takeaway here? Maybe it's that creativity doesn't need some dramatic backstory to flourish. It can come from anywhere, even a master planned suburb.
Or maybe it's that those unconventional paths, those failed ballet jobs or weird internships, they aren't failures. They're just part of the journey,
Yeah.
right? They might even steer you where you need to go.
Ferrell's whole career kind of encourages embracing the weird, the unique parts of yourself and sharing them, finding the funny in the mundane or the extraordinary.
And his influence on comedy is just undeniable. He shaped a whole style, entertained millions, and continues to do so. Which kind of raises that question.
What's next?
Yeah. How will these newer ventures, the podcasts, the more personal stuff like the documentary, how will that shape his legacy moving forward? It feels like he's still exploring.
So, as you reflect on Will Ferrell's deep dive into comedy and really everything else he does, maybe consider this. What unexpected passion or maybe just a silly talent do you have that you might be overlooking? What's your cowbell, so to speak?
That's a great thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast for this look at the incredible Will Ferrell.
We hope you had as much fun as we did. If you enjoyed it, please do hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more fascinating lives and stories to explore right here on Tell Me More. Don't miss out.